blessing this city and the people in it. Allow us to make decisions that you want us to make. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He was anxious.
I have very few announcements tonight. However, I do have one very important one. Actually, I have two very important ones. The first one is on 2/20, February 20th.
I'm trying to ignore you.
You can. Laura has a birthday on 2/20, and I do not know her age, and if I did, I wouldn't say it like some of the other council members I have.
No.
But happy birthday.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And the other important one is I'd like to introduce the new 911 director for Greene County, Zim Schwartz. Zim, will you come to the microphone? And
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you.
To the mayor, city council members, and other city officials, I appreciate you allowing me to speak this evening. I would also like to thank Mr. Kritschke for inviting me to this meeting tonight, and I do owe him because I would rather be here than in another council meeting in a nearby city. That will remain.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything. Boy, I sure do owe you.
And no, you don't owe him anything.
Oh, okay. It's all, we're all in.
We worked hard to negotiate that.
But just to give you a little bit of background, I have 20-plus years as law enforcement. I was a captain with the Columbia Police Department. I'm a National Academy graduate, just like Chief Lowe. Session 190. Yeah, I was a few years after him. No, just a couple. Just a few years. I was Session 231, so not that far behind. The last 3 years has been as the director of the Communications Center in the Columbia-Boone County area. So I started 1 month ago. I have made it through 4 weeks. I'm working on my 5th, so I'm very excited. I want to tell you, though, I do know that the Republic merger is top priority on my list. Change is always stressful, so I understand that, and I will do everything I can to work with Chief Lowe, Mr. Kritschke, the principal planner that I just met this evening as well, and the telecommunicators to reduce that. I've already had several meetings with everyone, and I'm very excited. I understand how integrated the dispatch center is with this community, with the police department. That is what I'm very familiar with up north. So I understand that there's a lot of issues and a lot of details to consider and work through. So I'm very much aware of that, and we are preparing plans now to continue to move forward with that merger. So I look forward to working with everyone here, and you know you can always call. I'm pretty available. 911 will get me. But no, I'm just kidding. But if there's any questions or anything that anyone has, I'd be happy. I can talk to about anyone, anywhere, about anything for quite a length of time. So I know you guys don't want to go very far into tonight.
I only have one request, Tim, and then we've been asking for a transition plan and a backup plan for 5 years now. And it's an integral part for all citizens of Greene County, not just us. And I know that, you know, as you take control and work with that organization and the 911 Advisory Board, we would just like to be able to see a backup plan, regardless of whether it includes Republic or does not. A backup plan is vital, as you're well aware. And we'd like to see a transition plan for the closure as well. If in fact this City Republic dispatch center is closed, we need that transition plan to ensure our employees are taken care of. And I know that we're working on that, and there's some inside things going on, and we're working with the City of Springfield, but we definitely need those copies of those plans, and that's all we've been asking for 5 years now, 6 years now, going on 2013. So we've asked for them, we've never received them. But I'm asking you for a copy of them when you complete them, or when they are completed. That's all I'm asking for. That's all we've been
Well,
requesting?
I can tell you that an agreement is already being worked on. I have already met several times for several meetings with that to include so that the employees, the dispatchers know what is coming.
Good.
And they can understand how it affects them. And I know we're only talking about a handful, but those are very important people too. And the unknown is what's stressing, is very stressful, that they don't know. Now, how's this going to affect me? What do I want to do? How is this going to work? How is it going to affect my time, my leave, everything? So I understand that. That's already being worked on. In addition, we have a kind of a rough draft of our operational plan to transition already. I'm looking over that now so that we can tweak it a little bit to what we know now at this time and get that to you.
That'd be great, and I have one other request.
Wow, okay.
I don't have many.
I'm just
Staff
kidding.
well knows I don't have many, but when I do, I just make them go. My last request is that if you would find the time during your work week sometime, is to read a copy of the third-party report that was done between 911 Advisory Board and the City Republic. That has some vital information not only about the City of Springfield, Greene County, but also vital information about how our Operations Center came to be. And some interesting information. The third-party recommendation was to keep Republic open, but the 911 Advisory Board, as you're well aware, voted to close us anyway. I would ask that you read a copy of that entire report and just let us know what your thoughts are, personal and professional. Just for the simple fact that you may come to the same conclusion as 911 Advisory Board, you may come to a different conclusion, you may come to the same conclusion as the third-party consultant. But in any aspect, we would like for you to take a look at that because, you know, as the new director, we not only value what your input is, but we'd also like your opinion on that as well. I know it's water under the bridge to 911 Advisory Board. It's not water under the bridge to us because we helped pay for it.
I understand that.
You know, which I think that's a different subject, but in itself, we would like for you to read that as well and give us your thoughts and opinion on it.
I will, and I have access to a copy of that, so I'll make sure I do read that. I'm working on budget. That's all I did today, so I'm kind of, my head is full of numbers today. That's been very painful. That's another meeting. But that, I do understand that, you know, with budget money and what the recommendation was, I understand that. So I would be happy to read that over and give you my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for the new 911 director? Pertinent questions. I have to.
Oh. Yeah. You saw him looking.
I'll answer about anything. I'm pretty open.
Usually
don't go too far.
Yeah.
You never know what you may get.
I'm also very blunt. So I'll let you know. But no, I'd be happy to. Were you just kidding?
Now, what is ZIM short for?
Oh. It's short for Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
I have, formerly known as Rhodesia. I have 6 names. Zim is what I go by mostly, and Swartz is my maiden name. So my husband goes by a different name. They call him my maiden name. It's bad. It gets ugly at home. But it's short for Zimbabwe, but it is spelled different. It's Bobway. Okay. So it's like heck trying to fit that on a Social Security card. 6 names. They had to cut out some, literally, to fit that on.
Did that answer your question, Daniel?
It did. I just, her parents must not like her. I don't know.
It has nothing to do with that. They were not missionaries. They've never been to Africa. Nothing along that nature. I've heard it all.
Is he up for re-election or are you up for re-election?
He is.
There's a reason for that. Any other good questions?
Mr. Christie warned me about you guys.
I always try to make sure she's prepared. I go, you just never know.
Oh,
you never know what may happen. But I will have to say that, you know, within the first 2 weeks, you were here visiting, taking a look at the dispatch center, making sure you were introduced to all of our dispatchers. And, you know, the change is always tough, but this particular change, you know, has been very positive for us. And there are a lot of, you know, people out there within the Republic that have some anxiety, but the meetings we've had to date have really been productive and good, and look forward to a good conclusion and outcome to all of this. So.
Well, and thank you. And I hopefully I will bring a fresh perspective on things And I know that, again, this can be very stressful. Chief Lowe actually invited me over to the department. I spent the entire morning over there, and that was fun. I even had coffee, so he was nice to do me that. But it was very enjoyable, and I think it really helped me understand all the details that is going into this, with everything that the dispatch does for their police department and the community, not just that department, other departments as well. So, do the best I can.
Well, we appreciate that. Other questions, council? Anything at all? Okay. Then we got you out of here just in time for you to make that meeting.
Oh, hey,
I know the drive's long.
it's going to take a while. I have to go the speed limit, and go very slow, so it may take a while to get back.
It's 40 till you get well out of the
I'm a very cautious driver.
You're going to want to take notes.
But no, I will take my time getting back. But thank you for being so considerate.
Speed, get pulled over, get a ticket, experience that. That'll take up a good hour.
Oh,
so there you go. And
gosh.
add a little revenue to the city as
I'm
well.
not. I'm thinking no on that too. But I will think about the other city council meeting as I head back.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yes, and I will enjoy tomorrow morning when they talk about it at the meeting.
Then thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
I'd like to open it up now to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation closed. Need a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion, second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On the financial report, welcome Laura Garai, birthday girl on the 20th.
Yes, I'm not a year older yet, so just don't push it yet.
It's close.
I think it's close enough. Okay.
29 is nothing to fear.
That's right. You will be there someday, won't you, Shane?
He's in his teens.
Yeah.
Give us the overview there,
Well,
Laura.
first of all, I passed out the sales tax and motor fuel tax collection report. And even though this is not usually the meeting I pass this out at, but I wanted to go ahead and just finish out the month or the year of 2012. We did receive the last sales tax payment for 2012, and even though it was a little bit under what we had anticipated for the year, we did just end up with $12,095 being short of budget, which made the comparison to the prior year just a little under 0.51% under. So it was closer than what we were afraid of at the last meeting. So we will be able to absorb that in the budget for 2012. The other report I have is, of course, the cash balances, and with the property tax payments that we received in January, the general fund has come up with a more positive balance than it had been for the last several months, so it had grown. And then also the January statement of revenue and expense report. And I did just want to point out to you that there are two new divisions with the year of 2013. The first one is 1017, which is the information technology. It has been separated from the administrative division budget, so it is now its own budget, so you can look at that division at any time and see what the city's expenditures are as related to IT. And then also in the utility fund, there is a new division for utility billing, and so that will encompass a lot of administrative expenses in addition to having pulled all the utility billing expenses, salaries, and whatever they have been separated into the water and wastewater. They are now into their own fund also. So there's not a whole lot to really visit about since we are just in our first month of the year. And Audit adjustments are still forthcoming due to expenditures and revenues that will be put back towards 2012. So I will, if there's any questions on January at least, I will.
Questions, comments, discussions for Laura? Seeing none, need a motion to approve financial report?
Motion?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Laura.
Okay, thank you.
Any report, Mr. Christie?
No, sir.
Mr. Derrickson?
No, sir.
Okay. Future community events. Welcome, Mr. Keeling.
Good evening. Thank you.
How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Future community events for the last part of February here. February 12th through May the 9th, Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program. That's Tuesdays at 1:30 at the Republic Community Center. February 15th is the last day to register for spring adult volleyball. The season begins the week of March the 7th. February 15th and 22nd is toddler story time. It's 10:30 a.m. at the Republic Community Center. It's a free event. February 16th, this Saturday night, is Parents' Night Out, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pre-registration is required. February 18th, we host a Schools Out program. It's from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and that's for ages 6 to 12. February 18th through March the 9th is registration for junior high and high school basketball. The season begins the week of March the 18th. February 25th, Toddler Open Gym at 10 a.m. It's $2 per toddler, and that's held at the Republic Community Center. February 28th, Senior Movie Day, 2 p.m. It's a free event at the Republic Community Center. Our first ever silent film. The Artist is all I know. That's all I was told.
Silent film.
Yes, silent film.
So you can hear them chewing on popcorn
Yeah, and bringing free coffee. Right.
Bring free coffee.
Yes,
Okay.
February.
Have you ever seen a silent film, Jared? I'm just asking.
Never heard one.
Is the Stooges,
Never heard
was Three Stooges silent?
You stole it.
No,
They're not silent.
All right. Then I guess the answer would be no.
And as Daniel said, you've never heard one either.
Thank you, Dan. That's good. February 28th through April the 4th, toddler tumbling, 5:30 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. and pre-registration is required at the Republic Activities Building.
All right, Jared. Thank you so
Thanks, sir.
much. Thank you. Board, Commission, and Committee schedule. Board of Adjustments, March 7th. Capital Improvements, February 20th. City Council, February 25th and March 11th. And Planning and Zoning Commission, February 18th. On the old business. Yes, sir. Need a motion to remove Bill number 13-04 from the table.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to remove from the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Need a motion to have the second reading of Bill number 13-04.
Motion?
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately .7 acres owned by Philip and Gloria Brown, located at 280 East US Highway 60, from local commercial C1 to general commercial C2.
Need a motion to have final approval, Bill number 13-04.
Motion? Second?
Motion second. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Give us the overview, sir.
Just as Karen read, this will rezone approximately .87 acres located in the 200 block of East US Highway 60 from local commercial C1 to general commercial C2. This property enjoys frontage on US Highway 60, South Maple Avenue, and also South Hampton Avenue. However, it has only direct access to Maple and Hampton Avenues. The transportation facilities serving this site include US Highway 60, which is a primary arterial thoroughfare. Both Hampton and Maple are local class thoroughfares. The existing facilities are adequate to serve general commercial development. Current land uses include local commercial retail uses in both of the principal buildings located on this site. The adopted land use plan indicates that local commercial uses are the most appropriate for this particular site. Municipal utilities serving this property include water and sanitary sewer. They are available and adequate to support general commercial use. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended by a vote of 4-0 to approve this application, Staff, however, is recommending against this application and in keeping with the city's adopted land use plan adopted in 2005. Since the last council meeting, the applicant has submitted a request to have their zoning change amended. I believe each of you has a memo in your packet that outlines the request. There's also a map that displays how that would change. Basically, it would eliminate approximately a third of an acre on the northern end of the property from the rezone. That would remain local commercial C1. In that memo is some language there that you can use if council desires to make a motion to amend the bill as the applicant has requested.
Questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Tyson? Mr. Grooms?
Given the reasoning for the request to rezone to C2, without that highway frontage, what's the advantage?
Could you be a little more specific?
Well, my understanding is that the primary advantage to rezoning this to C2 would be to allow outside sales, the trailers. Without any highway frontage or any visibility, I don't see how this rezone is achieving what they're hoping to achieve.
It would eliminate the possibility of displaying materials associated with the C2 use on that front part there that's right along 60. It would still all be permitted on the part that would go to C2 if the rezone were approved. But as far as...
Which is the space behind the building.
Right. As far as the advantages, I'd probably have to defer to the applicant on that, who's here this evening, if you'd like to ask them, if the mayor would like them to be asked.
Hold that for a second, just for the simple
Fair
fact that it's a zoning classification, not a use classification.
I understand.
So, hold that one. Let's move on. I'll come back to that. Any other further questions for Mr. Tyson? Mr. Harder?
And staff, again, does not recommend this according to the adopted land use plan, correct?
That's correct. Sometimes it's difficult to, I wasn't directly involved in the formation of that plan, so we're forced to try to deduce what the rationale was for each particular location. And what I believe is the case here is that this property being in such close proximity to other local commercial uses and also an established residential area, that the plan is recommending that stretch of 60 there on the south side all remain local commercial, which is what the plan reflects. The north side would go to general commercial, and then part of that is, as you see, there are general commercial uses in close proximity to the property today, and one of the clues that clued me into what some of the rationale may have been at the time is you see those general commercial uses there to the southeast. If you look at the land use plan adopted in 2005, that plan is recommending that those general commercial uses be converted back to residential uses. So there's a clue there that the plan is pushing that towards reestablishing that residential area, which would lend itself better to local commercial uses than general commercial uses.
Thank you very much.
Is there a precedent that we have that might indicate a time when it's a good idea to go against the zone use plan or the land use plan?
Absolutely. Like I said, this was adopted in 2005, and in those years since, there have been a lot of changes in Republic, and where you see changes like enhancements and improvements in the capacity of our water and sewer systems in a particular area, where you see the subdivision or re-subdivision of land, rearrangement of property lines in a way that would lend itself better to other types of uses. Those would be situations where I think there would be grounds for staff to recommend doing something different than the land use plan, which is completely okay. It is a guideline. It is meant to inform and guide the decision. It's not a steadfast requirement. We just don't see any of those things in play for this particular property.
Thank you.
Hey, to follow up on Mr. Tyson's point, that land use plan was adopted in 2005, which means it was studied and done in 2003, 2004, with the adoption in 2005. So, you know what our population was back then compared to what it is now. So, just as our transportation plan, as Mr. Tyson said, those are guidelines to be used as guidelines, not steadfast. And I think he made that point, but I want to make sure that we're all understand that our transportation plan and our land use plan are the same. Mr. Wilson, you had a question, sir?
Yes. On this map here,
Yes.
it's showing that the two houses to the south of that is future local commercial. Or at least one of the houses.
That's correct.
And the business that's, at the end of Hampton Avenue, south of Redder Street, I don't know what it is now, but it used to be a business there. Do you know what it is now?
I don't know what it is now, but it has previously been,
A chrome plating shop.
That's right,
for one
yeah.
thing.
and also a trucking operation has operated out of there.
That's the storage here, and this is the...
There have been some intensive uses at that property.
This shows future low-density residence, but that's not any kind of commercial right now.
It is. It is zoned for commercial. I don't know, I believe there's a business operating there currently, but I couldn't tell you
Because in this,
specific.
it's got, depending on what color you think it is, future low-density residence.
Right, that's correct.
One thing to keep in mind, when the mayor brought up the comprehensive land use plan and the transportation plan, typically a city will go through reviews of those and updates of those, 5 to 10 years. And in our case, we had a consolidation in 2005, so this land use plan that we're working off of today isn't reflective totally of the consolidation and the changes that have occurred. So we're due to do a new update and review of the comprehensive plan, and that, if everything goes according to plan, that will follow after we get done with the new code revisions. So it's not unusual to make changes from time to time in these plans.
I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
All right, 60 Highway is eventually gonna be full of commercial, and after that gets full, the only logical place to go is one street behind it, as I see it. So, where that leaves us, I'm not sure. Understand?
Yes, sir. I fully understand.
Okay.
Additional questions, comments, discussion?
One more.
The floor is yours.
All right, since they're taking that front off, and with the front it was .89, what's it gonna be now without that front?
0.5-ish.
A half an acre or less? What can it?
Or more, a half an acre or more.
With a half acre, what in the world can you do with a half acre?
Depends on your zoning and classification.
I know.
But I think I get where you're going, and the size is a limiting factor
Right.
on what can go there.
Can't be a whole lot going a half an acre.
That's correct. Some uses just by their very nature require more than a half an acre.
Right. And you figure in your setbacks and all that, what's that gonna leave? When you put up your fences and your shrubs and all of that, then how much land have you got to actually work with?
Looking at, 15 feet on all sides in this case.
And a half acre is, what, 100 foot square, 110 or 105, depending on who figures it.
I believe this property is, I can't recall, I wanna say 135 feet wide. Does that sound right?
How deep? 180, okay.
I want to clarify a point Mr. Wilson made. In front of you right now, on the table, the second read, is the entire lot at C2. P and Z voted 4-0.
Right.
Staff recommended not to pass an amendment.
No, they voted to pass it.
Staff.
Say what now?
Planning and zoning voted 4-0 at pass.
That it passed.
At pass.
But
Staff
is
recommended against it. However, in this particular case, you have in front of you, it's all C2 at this point. There's a recommendation, if you would like to take it, not a recommendation, but a request, if you want to go with C1 in front, C2 in the back, that's in front of you as well. That is not what you're voting on unless you amend it using that. Does that make sense? Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's clear. You're voting right now, you're looking at it as C2 full unless you want to go C1 and C2. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of where we are, where we stand, because
Just to clarify, that's something the applicant asked to be done. It's not anything that came about as a requirement
correct.
by the city.
Yes, and
That's
the
something they
rationale
desire
is
to have
listed,
done.
the rationale is listed in the letter behind it.
Right.
Mr. Hardy, you had a question, I think you had your finger raised.
Yeah, so as it is now, C1 to C2, the whole lot. That will, correct, that's what we're going, that's, unless it's amended,
Unless it's amended, C2 is the entire thing.
okay? And that would be the landscaping and the paving, the drive and all that.
As uses change, that would eventually come into play, yes. Not immediately upon a rezone do those become requirements. But as the uses change, what are lawfully existing nonconformities must be corrected. So they could continue on as they are now for a number of years without having to make any changes, even if they were rezoned. But as they begin to change uses to general commercial uses, then we would enforce the requirements at that time.
Does that make sense, Mr. Harder?
Clarification.
For
All right.
example,
Let me jump in here, Mr. Tyson. On all zoning, you consider the zoning and the zoning in the surrounding areas. You can't consider use.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. So as we move forward on the zoning, is the zoning fit? If it comes down to the application of setbacks and all that stuff, the use right now, as Mr. Tyson says, is fine. It's already operating, it's fine. If the use changes under zoning of C1 or C2 or M1 or M2, the ordinances apply as soon as the zoning changes, or as soon as that use changes. As far as your concern is the zoning itself. Does that answer your question? I'll make sure everybody understands where we're at.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That help? Because you asked me earlier if I understood. I did. Do you understand, Ms. Wilson? I figured you would.
You're just, so I'm clear too, a change could also occur by increase in use.
Yes,
For a
that's right.
non-conforming use, not just a change in use.
Right.
If they expand the existing use, that could also trigger those changes.
Those changes relative to whatever
Whatever
their
the zoning
zoning
is,
district is at the time, right.
Mr. Casgrain?
I was just curious, I know we talked the other night about parking spaces, and I know there was originally supposed to be 30 or thereabouts parking spaces, and we're down to 22 or 24, is that correct?
That's close, yeah, 24, 25, right.
Okay. Have there been any other concessions made or anything like that that's, where it helped the business or the property owner, to use the property in the situation it's in now?
Staff has been working with, the owner and current tenant for a number of weeks now in, putting together a plan for bringing the property into compliance according to a specific, plan for a change in use. So some of these requirements would come in play. We've been working with them to try to come to, the best possible situation, for making that happen with regard to parking, also buffer yard and screening. And we have, I believe staff has worked with the property owner to try to, make it feasible,
Okay.
for those improvements to be made. And the site conditions warrant some, alternative plans. Just a strict application of the code may not be possible in every case.
If we raise the zoning to C2, does that make the stretch even further than that we've, having to make concessions to make this property fit the zoning?
I would have to say yes. I mean, the requirements will be more stringent
Okay.
as you move up from C1 to C2, so, the buffer yard becomes beefed up, so to speak.
It seems like that creates a precedent then where we possibly have other people that wanna rezone and then they say, you let these folks get by with following some rules and not another. If we kinda start that slippery slope, is that accurate?
Sure. I mean, we're always looking to apply these as consistently and fairly as possible. Every site is unique, and every use doesn't configure the same way in every site. So whenever we do make like you're saying, maybe a concession or trying to work with a property owner to make something feasible, what we're looking for is a clear and distinct reason for why we're doing that. That we can put on writing in a file somewhere so that somebody who's doing what I'm doing now, years from now, can pull that out and say, I understand why they did what they did. They had a clear and distinct reason for doing that. If that's gray or just not there, that's when you gotta get the Board of Adjustments involved.
Garrett, could I clarify, you're using the word concession.
Yeah, that's,
I think that's the wrong term, isn't it? Isn't it interpretation based upon the facts and circumstances of the particular application?
that's a much better way to say it, yes.
And Garrett will come to me with a question, said, here is what the ordinance says, it's not clear how we address this issue. And part of the planning code says that in those cases, the administrative person, which would be Garrett or Gail, has to make an interpretation. And there's a whole appeal process if someone disagrees with their interpretation to the Board of Adjustment. And so that's what, when he's using the term concession, it's really more of an interpretation. We've got a unique situation that doesn't clearly fit a round circle into a peg into a round hole. It's more of a square hole. And so we get together and we look at it and we look at the language and we look at the facts and we say, this looks like the most appropriate interpretation of the code with regard to that, and then they make their decision based upon that.
I see. Okay, I understand the difference. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments, or discussion? I will ask, and typically I don't do this, but you have been presented an amendment. This time, if anyone would like to make that amendment, that was fine. If not, I'll ask one more round of discussion, comments, or questions.
I'm just gonna
throw this out there, I don't know if I've used the wrong term, forgive me in advance. Looking at the existing uses and the proposed uses according to the land use, this just looks like a spot zoning to me. I mean, the existing use is primarily C1 and residential, the proposed land use is primarily C1 and residential. The lines just change a little bit. And then we're talking about throwing a C2 in the middle of it. Granted, it's not a large piece, but, to go cliche, that slippery slope or those dominoes tend to fall, and suddenly we find ourselves with a bunch of C2 backed up to residential, and that's my biggest problem with this. I hate to argue against anybody ever being able to move forward with something they want to do. I'm just not sure this is the right place, given what's around it.
Let me clarify something, Mr. Grooms, you already have C2 backed up against it. So,
You have C2 that is, by the land use plan, future, the R1 or R2.
Yes, however,
By zoning this then you further invalidate the possibility of that future use coming into being.
possibly. I'm just letting you know, I agree, I hear your argument, I think everybody does, but I wanna make sure that everybody understands, there already is a huge blind.
I understand that.
I just wanna make sure whether it's future land use as a guideline or future land use as a straight down the line, it's a guide. So whether we're using that as a guide or stringent, we're gonna use it as a guide. So I wanna make sure everybody is clear on exactly where that line is drawn with that C2. I understand your point though, but I wanna make sure that's clarified.
And part of that guide, part of the idea behind that to me was I look at what the little bit that's put in front of us now and try to remember what happened 7-8 years ago, is that US Highway 60 that's our face. That's what we want is the local commercial, the C1. Yeah, you're gonna have some C2 because it's already been there, and sometimes it is the best use. But, that's not the face that Republic wanted to present to people as they came through town.
I would say that jives with the 2005 land use plan. It did seem to.
And so I guess maybe the question, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the question would be, is that still what we feel, what we believe? I'm sorry, Gary, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I'm done now. Or as Forrest would say, that's all I have to say about that.
There's some material there, but I'm not going there. All right.
I threw you a slow pitch.
Sorry. Sorry, I took it as a ball. All right, anything else? Other questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? Anything? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Wilson,
No.
Councilmember Grooms,
No.
Councilmember Bashir,
No.
Councilmember Harder,
No.
Councilmember Cathy-Grand,
No.
Councilmember Poole. No. Councilmember Harrelson.
Motion fails, 0-7. The next item, need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-06.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an intergovernmental cooperative agreement with the Republic School District for the use of surplus police vehicles.
Need a motion to have the final passage of bill number 13-06.
Motion? Second.
Motion second. Welcome, Chief Lowe. Give us the overview, sir.
As I said during the last meeting, the city has been having some really outstanding dialogue with schools and improving our partnership with them. And Mr. Kriske had formulated this idea that everybody thought was just fantastic, and maybe one of the first ones I've ever heard of, where the city typically, as we've replaced vehicles, our older vehicles go out to either be auctioned off or salvaged. And in this case, since our schools have no vehicles for their school safety or security officers, which are commissioned reserve officers, this would provide them a visible police vehicle out in front of their schools and provide them with the ability to handle traffic control or do other things that are within the scope of their duties. So this is really an outstanding option for both the schools and for us, and there will be no appreciable loss to us in the resale of the vehicles because of the lack of the use. And so far the school has offered that they would replace the lighting equipment, emergency lights and everything on the new cars that we would be buying, so we would leave that on the cars that would be recycling out. So that would be a very good benefit for us. And Mr. Kriske can expand on that if he feels that was something else.
You've explained it. I certainly do not want to take all the credit because sometimes you just get ideas from other people.
It was my idea.
And a lot of times we talk about things, so But anyways, on that topic, when we talked to the school on Friday, we have 2 vehicles now that we're ready to surplus. We'll also have 2 vehicles within probably the next 2 or 3 months that will be ready for surplus as well. So we've got 2 replacement vehicles in the budget. So the process right now is to figure out, do they want to use or take the 2 vehicles that are currently available to them, or wait for the 2 vehicles that will be upcoming in 2 or 3 months. And really they need to sit down with our mechanics and our people that are the car people, try to decide which are the 2 best vehicles for them to use, and that's what they're going to be doing next. And if it's a matter of waiting a couple of extra months to get the 2 better vehicles, then we can surplus these and just wait it out. But they're 2 more months after this length of time, they're perfectly satisfied and happy to be patient.
And as we might add too, as we had discussions with the school district, we've had ex-chiefs have excellent dialogue since we started some of our local meetings. The one thing about this is we want to make sure the agreement's in place, and as far as the timing of the exchange of vehicles, that'll be up to the chief, as Jim said, with the school district on which vehicles they would like to take. We want to make sure we give them the greatest option, but at this time, what's in front of you is the actual agreement that will go forth from now and set us up for the future to work with them on a consistent basis as far as our police vehicles. So, Mr. Wilson, you had a question, sir?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Most you talking.
Well, there's certain things. Anyway, the police cars, they're going to still have the Republic name on them, and they're going to have police on them, right?
Sort of.
What do you mean, sort of?
Well, they haven't actually determined the markings, but they'll still be black and white.
Yes.
And on the side it will say police. But instead of just saying Republic Police, they're going to change it over to Republic School Police or Republic, and we've brought up the idea that they put school logos such as the Tiger logo or something else on it. They'd also put, because their typical term is school safety or security, that would also be on the vehicle in places, and we would have it, and they agree as well as us, that we want it to be obvious and easily distinctive that it's their vehicle and not ours. So that's already been discussed and dialogued.
One other question or two. Do they have the ability to write tickets
Yes.
to cars? Can they stop cars and write a ticket?
Legally, because they're commissioned through the Republic Police Department, they do.
That's correct.
But that would not be, we have, besides this agreement, we've worked on a set of policy, I guess, standards for them to follow when they're using those vehicles. We certainly don't want them to get into pursuits. We don't want them to, be writing tickets and that sort of thing. So that's something that we'll work on with them that will help define what it is that they should and shouldn't do. But can they
legally.
Legally, yes, they would
Can-
be able to. but
Can they could, would they do it more than once? No.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Well,
Because it'll bounce back on
Well,
our police department if they start messing around.
you are correct, and if that happens, then that'll be handled internally from them, I'm sure, with strong words from the chief and the attorney. But at this time, to the point, I mean, up till December 31st, we were able to write tickets in the county.
Right.
So, which we're not able to do anymore along with
Right.
everybody else. However, inside our city limits, yes, their commissioned officers, do they want that responsibility? Probably not.
Well, arguably right now, if they wanted to go out and buy a used Springfield police car,
They could do it.
But
fully
it has
equipped.
Springfield on it and not
well,
Republic.
right, no, they're gonna put the school on there, they're gonna put Republic on there.
Yeah.
They could do it in their personal cars,
Mhm.
put a little light on it and stop vehicles, but like I say, they would only do that about once. Because if they bring it to municipal court, I'm gonna have a talk with them.
And what we're envisioning is, we have quite a number of traffic crashes down around the high school.
Right.
They have to wait for us to respond, or in some cases, maybe they could be out there directing traffic, which would free our officers up from having to go out there and do it. As you know, during the beginning of the school years, we work very diligently with our schools to assist them in getting vehicles in and out off of Anderson and the other elementary schools. This is something now they could absorb as part of their responsibilities, which would free us up to be more mobile and not be tied down to that location during the school zone. So this is a win-win for both sides.
Well, the school is working better with the city and the police now than they have in years and years. So I'm not against it by any means. I just want rules to be in place to protect us.
Well, as Mr. Christie said, we've drafted some recommendations for their policies and procedures for that.
Yeah,
All right.
vehicle usage policy.
Very
Okay.
good.
Does that answer your question?
I'm happy.
Fine. Mr. Castagrande?
Probably it's the same answer, but I feel incumbent upon me to ask, I believe Jeff Klinkenbeard asked last week about insurance, making sure that
And we got that, I think it was Shane.
That
And
was-
we inserted the word collision insurance.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for
Excellent.
forgetting. We did have that.
Absolutely.
And there may be some slight tweaks to the agreement as we present it to them, and nothing major, but things like that, if we see we've left something out that really needs to be in there, we'll stick it in there, as long as it stays substantially the same.
And their attorney may want to add
Yeah.
something to it as well to protect them as well. Not that they're not protected now, but you never know. All good questions. Additional questions, comments, discussion for Chief Blaine? Anything else? That's good. All right. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrelson? Aye. Councilmember Poole? Aye. Councilmember Casagrande?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Grooms?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0, thank you. Need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-07.
Motion?
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Chapter 120, City Officers and Employees, Article 6, Miscellaneous Provisions by adding Section 120.140, Acceptance of Easements Dedicated to Public Use.
Need a motion to have the passage of bill number 13-07.
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. The city attorney is looking for the means to which every easement dedicated to the city would be implicitly accepted. So we have a signature on the easement that says accepted by the City of Republic. This bill is proposing to set limitations on when staff could do that. The Public Works Director could perform that function. Anything that falls outside of what the council chooses to codify would come to the council asking for authorization to accept that easement. That being said, this is a second reading. There was some discussion at first reading about clarifying the terms of the draft, so you will find in your packet a substitute bill that has been, prepared by our city administrator, city attorney. I'm the innocent bystander, I'll follow any direction you give me. So, would ask you to, consider, the substitution of, Bill 13-07.
07? You did say 07.
Do you need a motion,
Yeah, as soon as everybody reads it and you approve, I need a motion to accept substitute bill number 13-07. If you've read it, I have no problem. You may have already read it, so.
Want to go there?
Just wait.
We're looking at you, I see if you're happy.
Well, and I move that we accept the substitute bill, 13-07.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. You can vote on that, right?
Yeah, just not a roll call.
Correct. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock? Was that Mr. Groves?
I said I'm good now.
Okay. As long as you're happy. Anything at all for Mr. Brock? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Bashirs,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder,
Aye.
Councilmember Casagran,
Aye.
Councilmember Poole. Aye. Councilmember Harrelson.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Oh, the next item, thank you, Mr. Brock. Need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-08.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the final plat of the Woodland Park Estates Phase 2 subdivision located at the 1400 block of South Illinois Avenue in the City of Republic, Missouri.
Need a motion to have final passage of bill number 13-08.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Please give us an overview, sir.
This bill will approve the final plat of Woodland Park Estates Phase 2, which is the second phase of a major subdivision formerly called Indian Trails Phase 2 that was originally approved in 2005. It was mostly constructed then in 2005 and subsequent years, and then now is being finished up by a successor developer. They've already platted Phase 1, which was 7 lots to the south of this phase. They're now platting an additional 7 lots here, just to the north of Phase 1. This is in conformance with our subdivision and land use regulations, so staff recommends it be approved.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson? Anything at all? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrelson. Aye. Councilmember Poole. Aye. Councilmember Casagran.
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Councilmember Bashirs.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. On to new business, need a motion on the first reading of bill number 13-09.
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Will you wait till she gets my reading?
Oh,
Wait.
No, you point that.
Point over here.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Karen. Never mind what your boss thinks.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending certain sections of Title 4 Land Use Republic City Code, Chapter 425, community standards for the City Republic, amending Chapter 430 Administrative Hearing Procedures generally, and amending Title 5 Building and Construction, Chapter 505 Dangerous Buildings.
Thank you, Karen. Mr. Derrickson,
Yes.
would you please give us the overview?
Are you sure?
I'm sure now. Here.
Basically, what happened is, you'll recall that because of the Springfield red light case, we went to, having an administrative hearing officer separate from the municipal judge, which had been the practice in Springfield and several other communities until that Court of Appeals case, or Supreme Court case actually was decided. So we hired an administrative, hearing judge, an attorney out of, Kansas City who's also doing Springfield's. And after the conclusion of, our yearly process of having administrative hearings, I talked to him about what did he see were problems with the way we were doing things. And his biggest issue, was with some conflicts in our code between sections regarding how notice was given. And so what I've attempted to do here is, based upon that conversation, suggest amendments that will make our notice procedure uniform across the board, from Chapter 425 to Chapter 430 to Chapter dealing with dangerous buildings. And that's what the proposal is that's before you.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Derrickson. Mr. Harder?
And this will make everybody happy then?
Well, the main person I'm trying to make happy is the administrative hearing officer, since he's the one that makes the decision. And he was struggling with actually how we were giving notice in some situations, because what brought this about is we gave notice under one ordinance, and we should have given notice under another one.
Okay.
And he said if you had them uniform, then you wouldn't have to worry about keeping that straight, and so that's why we're suggesting these changes.
Okay, and that's where we're at with these changes then.
Yes.
And notice those changes are, have strikes through them. And I think you had anything else that was added in bold? Is that correct,
In
sir?
bold.
Okay.
And I think I threw a few things in that were some clarifications that I felt like needed to be made in addition to the notice, but they were just to kind of clean things up from what I saw were problems.
Questions, comments, discussion?
It's not as good as the police car thing, but good work, sir.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing, no, go ahead.
If they do have anything, come to me before the next meeting.
I'm gonna get one.
Okay. I didn't want to step on you. I'm
This is
sorry.
a first read. If you have questions, comments, or discussions between now and then, just clarification, get with Mr. Derrickson. He obviously forgets what we do.
Didn't we go through this last meeting?
That was with you.
All right. On the next item, we need a motion of the first reading of bill number 13-10.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Chapter 610 Solicitors and Canvassers, Republic City Code, Article 1, Solicitors, by amending Article 1, Section 610.010, definitions, by adding Section 610.040, 5, identification card, application by adding Sections 610.0.08.0, background check, and by adding Section 610.130E, general prohibition.
Thank you. Mr. Krischke, give us the overview since Mrs. Jackson is not here tonight.
So if you do like this, give me credit. No, this is actually Brenda's. Brenda's been working on this for a while. She, as you know, she attends city clerk conferences all the time, and through that organization, they talk about all of the licensing things, and that's primarily what the city clerk does when they're not taking care of minutes and documents and that sort of thing. But in this particular article, we've had a number of people come forward throughout the years complaining about solicitors, wondering if they're licensed, wondering about their credibility, concerned about the hours that they're out there knocking on people's doors. So Brenda gathered a bunch of information together, and there are primarily 4 changes. There were others that would get a little more restrictive, that maybe would be a little bit too much to try to do, so we tried to keep it as simple as we could, but make the changes that would be effective. So one of the changes was something really that was just a one-word strike in the very beginning under the definition of public solicitation. We removed the word "or." This is another one of those that, depending on how you may read that, we felt it created somewhat of a loophole, so in working with Ron, we just removed the word "or," so that way we felt it was a little easier to understand what a public or professional solicitor would be. And then the other changes would require that all people bring their applications in person to City Hall. We already do that. That's a policy Brenda has had in place for quite some time. She wanted to make sure that was included in the ordinance, so it was formalized so that there would be no one that would question that. And then the big section that was to be changed was that would require background checks. We're able to do those now through the police department, so it's a much easier process to be able to do that. I think before they would go through highway patrol, and it would be a little more cumbersome. So Brenda wanted to do that, and for obvious reasons, that's the one thing that people call on all the time. They want to know who's out there, selling, whatever product, whatever service they're selling. They want to make sure that those people are not felons or what have you. So this would put that in place. And then the 4th item was the hours. We didn't have anything on the books that would prescribe the hours that solicitors could be in our neighborhoods. And the hours could totally be changed. It's something that we talked about and came up with what we thought would be reasonable hours, and that would be Monday through Saturday. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then Saturday, 11 or 12 o'clock noon through 8 p.m. And some of the people that actually have called in, some people that actually work here at the city, have complained about this as well, saying that people are knocking on their doors at 10 o'clock at night. So there's a little bit of concern. So those were the 4 changes that were suggested.
Mr. Cascaran.
Sorry, I mean, jumped the gun there.
Sorry.
What do we have in place now? Do we have anything in place right now?
This chapter 610 is
The entire thing's in place, right?
Okay.
Except for the changes that you said.
Oh, okay.
What's highlighted in yellow is
That's
what's
just
being
the
added to
changes.
what we have on the books
Okay.
right now.
So the next part of that is, this may sound ridiculous, but Girl Scouts. Can Girl Scouts exempt from this because they're a civic organization?
Yeah.
Okay.
Churches.
Yeah, this that's why we took the word "or" out, makes it specific to professional solicitors for
Okay.
money and.
So in the application, say I sell magazines, what's, in the real live world, I would need to come to the city, present an identification, I would be fingerprinted, potentially background checked, then I get a certificate or some kind of license to be able to sell my magazines, right? So say I don't do that, is Shane picking up the phone and calling the police are hauling this person off if he doesn't have a license or something along those lines?
And realistically, that does happen.
Okay.
I don't know what the percentage would be that follow the rules and come in and get their license. A good majority of them do, but then there are those that just will hit a neighborhood, and sometimes before, and Mark, Chief can correct me, but sometimes by the time we get that phone call and dispatch somebody out there, they've already figured out that it's time to go, and they leave. Yeah.
I can tell you that since I've been here since 2005, I can't recall ever seeing a ticket issued.
Unfortunately, a lot of and you referred specifically to magazine subscriptions, there are groups of people that will show up, they travel around the country, they'll show up, they'll have 10 of them in a motel room somewhere in the area, and they'll go out in vans, dump off, and hit the areas. It's, that they don't have good identification on them. Their legitimacy is somewhat questionable, and, don't know what kind of frauds are going on, and there's other problems that are associated with these people wandering around, and very seldom do we get the call until after they've left the area and something then raises their suspicion. So we're just trying to be, obviously keep the quality of life in our neighborhoods as safe as we can and not have people be concerned about it, because it's an ongoing problem, and every spring it starts.
Can't trust them.
And a lot of times, like in many things, they'll run across somebody, and it's a judgment of the officer that would get on that call whether or not they would need to issue a ticket or not, or just politely ask them to stop and leave. And unless they think something is suspicious, as Ron said, typically there wouldn't be a ticket issued. Because they'd leave for another town and never come back for the court date anyways.
Okay, I just was curious about the application of it, so that is.
Additional questions, comments, discussions, good question. This is a first read. If you have questions between now and then, please contact Mr. Christian or Brenda. If you have a legal question, please contact Mr. Derrickson.
On to other business?
Resolution number 13-R-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri awarding a bid for the replacement of a 10-foot dump truck bed. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Give us the overview, sir.
Thank you. We had money budgeted this year to replace a dump bed on a 1996 dump truck. Trucks see some pretty harsh operating conditions. They all run salt spreaders, and we have several of the structural components of the dump bed that are rusting out. We received or solicited and received bids from 3 vendors, 2 local. Bus Andrews and Fleet Sales are out of Springfield. Viking Size, I believe, is out of Illinois. Our low bidder came in at $8,812, and staff is asking for council to award to that low bidder and authorize the purchase of that replacement dump truck bed.
Questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock. Mr. Harder?
Are you gonna undercoat this thing when you get it? Or does it come with an undercoating, or what is it? Is it just bare metal or
It is a
primer?
polished steel. It is, there are so many nooks and crannies. We can certainly look into that. We have taken up the practice of armor-alling or armor-lining a lot of our interior beds. I don't know if there was something that we might be able to do on this body, but that was not included in the bid, sir.
Might be something to look at to make the how long does this bed last?
17 years.
Pretty good use out of it.
Pretty good use.
Pretty good use.
Trying to get 20 years. Just saying.
All it takes is a no. Any other pertinent comments, questions, or discussions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Brock. Resolution number 13-R-04, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with the James River Basin Partnership to become a member thereof. Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Brock, you'll see a review on this one, sir.
A lot of folks around are familiar with James River Basin Partnership. They started up late 1990s. Very well-known water quality group. They do a lot of public participation, a lot of scientific research, and as we move forward here, the city is required to purchase or to secure a stormwater permit. There's a lot of different categories, activities the city is going to have to undertake. James River Basin is a kind of a specialist at a number of them. Public education and outreach, public participation, illicit discharge as it relates to septic tanks. we are one of the last, cities in this part of southwest Missouri to have to undergo this permit, application and process, and other communities have found it very advantageous and very economical, to hitch their wagon to James River Basin, so to speak. They have a number of different membership rates. The level that we are proposing is $1,000 per year. We've negotiated a written contract with them, which spells out, in exchange for that annual contribution, the different services that they will provide to the city. Above and beyond the bullet points here, a big part of that is just, as I mentioned before, hitching the city's brand to their wagon. It's a bit of a philosophical viewpoint that we're going to need to undertake. A lot of different areas of the city, we just need to add a stormwater quality focus, and James River Basin is a good one to assist us in doing that.
Fair enough. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock?
Is there a higher level of membership and any perks that come along with that?
There are.
And
The next level is 5,000. With that additional 5,000, they will add a classroom activity. In other words, they would come in and every third grader would have a 2 or 3 hour block on stormwater and pollution, and they would actually perform that instruction block. Certainly something that sounds interesting. I have an interest in maybe seeing if we can't work with the school directly in doing that.
Something to get on our own as far as that goes.
Yes.
Additional questions, comments, discussion, Mr. Brock?
I don't believe I mentioned in my exhibit, but this is a budgeted item.
He looks at me.
Anticipation.
Ms. Poole, you're the one that asks that question all the time, and we appreciate it. I'm just shocked you hadn't got to it yet.
That was budgeted.
I figured you'd already knew. She didn't have to ask, David, because she already knew, because you already had it in the budget. Just want to let you know, she already read the budget, so. Any other questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brown? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's try that again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On the next item, resolution number 13-R-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a license agreement with the Public Saddle Club for the use of property located at Miller Park. I'd like to have a motion.
Motion.
Second. Motion and second. Welcome, Mr. Keeley. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. Our current agreement with the Republic Saddle Club expires on February 27th. This allows them to use our rodeo arena located within Miller Park. They put on 6 to 8 events a year, and they also have open times for public riding and down there, or horses can do things. They also do a dog show. They are a very good cooperative tenant. They were definitely respectful of their noise curfew. They have some events that do spill over past 11 p.m. and are cooperative with turning that down after 11, as the agreement states. They pay their own utilities, and overall, very pleased. Our line of communication with them, Mr. Molds, is good, so have had nothing but good things to say about it. This agreement is essentially the exact same agreement as last year. It is the exact same agreement. It'll take an additional 1 year to February 2014.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Keeley. Mr. Harder?
How much longer are you looking, this may be a little foresight, how much longer are you looking at having the rodeo there, the arena there?
It's a wonderful question. Ideally, we would like to have it moved, and they know that too and are aware of that and are very open to have it moved. Have different plans for that area. That was a little bit tied to possibly the eclipse thing. We'll see how that comes. There was an idea of having their events as part of that, whatever you want to call it, mega huge thing we're doing out there. But I have to play that up by ear for a while, so
Thank you.
Doesn't give you so much clarity, but
That's all you're gonna get.
TBD.
I
One of
have
those.
a question for you on this,
Yes.
sir. With this, we've got a lot of drainage issues happening in that area. Is that going to be affecting their parking or anything like that? Or are we gonna have to rearrange anything over there for that?
Certainly. Now, David can speak to the work that was just done out there, that we're hoping that solves some of our problems within Miller Park, correct?
The same amount of water will get to that point. The work we've done is just, kind of compresses that through that residential neighborhood, so once it gets down into the park, it shouldn't notice any difference.
So we shouldn't have any problems with the Saddle Club and their parking or anything else. We're gonna be able to still maintain that area. Okay. Correct. Just wanna make sure, 'cause this is gonna be there a while, and that water will come and go, so.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of parking for those events. And we have worked through with them before when they had some wet weather and some soggy ground down there. It hasn't been an issue. We do tell them the areas that we like for them to stay off of and those kind of things.
Good. Additional questions for Mr. Keeling? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On to the next item, resolution number 13-R-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the production of a fireworks show at the City of Republic's 17th Annual Have a Blast Patriotic Celebration scheduled for June 28, 2013 at J.R. Martin Park. I'd like to have a motion. Motion. Second. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Keeling, give us the overview, sir.
Certainly. Before the meeting, I did pass out the bid and display we received from Premier Pyrotechnics, or somehow that did not get in your packet. But there were two people that responded to our bid solicitation. Those were AM Pyrotechnics and Premier Pyrotechnics. Say the same thing every year, but when you bid out fireworks, you do it a little bit differently. You give them the amount and that you're wanting to spend on the show, and they reply with shell counts, display, and we kind of give them how long we want the display to last as well. So we did that. We received two back, Premier and AM Pyrotechnics. I did the math a little bit earlier today, but total shell count's really not all that close. Premier Pyrotechnics for 3 to 6 inch shells is 557, and AM Pyrotechnics is 1,088. The bigger type shells, which are make a little bit more of an impact, obviously, in the show, a little bit more expensive too. Premier Pyrotechnics is 57. This is for 5 to 6 inch shells, and AM Pyrotechnics is 102. I do want to say that AM Pyrotechnics, we have done our show for the past, how many ever years that I can remember. We're on a quality operation. We have tweaked it a little bit. He asks us every single year, is there anything we want to do differently? I do believe our show continues to improve in quality. They work really well with our fire department. I'm definitely comfortable with recommending them. So.
It's cheaper.
I'm sorry?
It's cheaper.
Yes, and you get more.
$4.
Oh. What was that? That, believe it or not, is it'll be $8,500. That's I don't even know why they do it. I guess they have to run the program out or something like that, but it'll be $8,500. No change.
Questions, comments, discussion that are...
What were those big shell numbers again?
I'm sorry?
The big shell numbers?
5 to 6 inch shells.
57 to 102, I'll just answer
Correct.
your question.
57 to 102.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're gonna look it up, I got it right here. Additional questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Keeling?
Do we have a sense on how many people are coming each year? I mean, is there any way to estimate that?
It's really tough. We put the number last year at around 8,000, and what that said is what we do is we look at on-site, and then for the last 2 years we've been really fortunate enough to get to ride around kind of pretty much from 60 all the way over to Maine, and there's a lot of people out there.
There are a lot of people. It
Yeah.
seems to be growing every year. I think with the shutdown of so many other
Yes.
fireworks displays around the community that people are coming here. That's a real boon to, our town, even if only for one night.
And I'm certainly glad you brought that up, because I do wholeheartedly respect and love the fact that we still do it. A lot of them have stopped. I do think it's one of the things our town is known for. We are one of the few standing still, and we get a lot of people coming to town for the show. So, yeah.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's not just there on the park, it's the whole neighborhood around there.
Right. And hopefully that's bringing in large economic impact. You never know, but you would hope so.
It's gotta be affecting, the McDonald's and Sonic and Price Cutter and all those places. People have gotta be just
They were booming last year.
That's good.
Booming? Like that? You like that? I'm glad my
That's
little
good
Ward
night.
4 council member caught that.
Now I get it.
rest are slow.
No, not slow.
Make it fun. We're just filtered. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
I do wanna say real quick,
Yes, sir.
we are still making decisions on band. There is a possibility we may go with an eighties band this year, so I just wanna give everybody a heads up, but we're still running that by the powers that be, so. An eighties band.
That's 3 decades ago.
Well, I say that, an eighties cover band, you know what I mean? They're not from the eighties.
No REO Speedway.
That's 70s, that's it. Let me clarify that.
And he would know.
I do know these things. Any other pertinent questions, comments, discussion? Jared, we always appreciate the park department and all the departments, because this is quite the city function, from streets department to reserve officers to police officers to fire department to parks department. It is quite the city effort, and we certainly appreciate your work in setting all these things up and all the department heads and getting with them, because I know you guys have a lot of coordination. It is probably the premier festival around that has a fireworks show, and we certainly appreciate that. And I look forward to it every year as well. So, if there's no other questions, comments, discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Keel. Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions?